Hello, a very warm welcome to our Technology Tuesdays. Today with the topic Stop the Portfolio Jungle. This webinar is about showing you several tools that we have created for you to make the product selection in terms of industrial communication much easier. Some nice guided selling approaches, some finders and selectors online, which we are going to present to you today. The webinar is held by our expert, Mr. Ralf Möbus today. Mr. Möbus is head of the business unit Industrial Communication here at headquarters LAPP in Stuttgart. From my side, some organizational information up front the webinar. It will be about 40 to 45 minutes presentation time. So afterwards, we will still have about 10 to 15 minutes for your questions to Mr. Möbus, which we then can answer live in the webinar session to you. In terms of data protection, I want to mention that this webinar is recorded. However, questions will not occur on the screen and also names will not be mentioned in this webinar. Also later in the recorded session, we will cut out the question and answer session for data protection reasons. You can also go online, lappkabel.com. Under news, you will find several other topics from our web Technology Tuesdays. Many other information and interesting topics where you can click in, where you can register. So please feel free to join. Last but not least, the panel here on the right side of your screen, you find the checkbox for questions. So whenever you have a question during the webinar, feel free to type in your question in this box. So later on in the Q&A session, we will take those questions at the end and will not do or answer the questions right during the webinar. In this case, lean back and enjoy the webinar, and I will hand over to Ralf Möbus.
So, warm welcome from my side to our webinar, Stop the Portfolio Jungle. Or I could also say, welcome to the jungle. I don't know who remembers that old song from the late 80s from Guns N' Roses, which had the same name. So hopefully, if you are thinking about our product portfolio, you don't feel lost. But I can understand as the LAPP Group has about 40,000 articles in our catalog and also on our website. So it is sometimes a challenge to find the right product. And today we want to show you the tools that we have created that could help you to find the right industrial communication solution. So that means the focus today is on industrial communication products, where we see that a lot of things are happening at the moment on the market. A lot of customers are now challenged with creating an industrial communication solution for their application. And this is where we want to help you. Yeah. So looking at our industrial communication portfolio, starting with the cables, for sure, many of you maybe know our field bus cables like Profibus, CAN bus, or DeviceNet, but we also have now a lot of industrial Ethernet cables. You know, more and more applications or customers are switching over from field bus to industrial Ethernet, and so this is a very strong growing product range. And last but not least, we have also cables for fiber optic installations like glass optical fiber cables or POF, plastic optical fibers. And if we talk about cables, we always have to think about also about the connectors, because we as LAPP, we always think in an end-to-end solution, which means we want to connect all these components like control systems, PLCs or sensors and actuators together with a complete communication network. And so if you have cables, then you also need connectors. Thinking about the field bus connectors, with Profibus, we had a so-called D-sub connector. Now with industrial Ethernet, we are talking about RJ45 or M12 connectors. So on the other hand, we are also offering patch cords for those customers who are not able to install the connector on their own or who don't want to install them on their own. We offer a complete plug-and-play solution. That means our cables already assembled with a connector, which is also overmolded. That means in the case of M12 or M8 connectors, those are also proof against water and dirt. And last but not least, our EtherLine Access range, which is a complete range of active communication solutions. That means industrial Ethernet switches or also NAT routers. Because, you know, if you want to build up a complete industrial Ethernet network, you don't need just cables or connectors. You also need the industrial Ethernet switches for this. So, and this all together makes a complete industrial communication solution. And with our tools that we have created, we want to support you in finding such complete solutions in our portfolio. So your benefit with industrial communication products from LAPP, first of all, we are protocol independent. That means we are supporting all the famous industrial communication systems in the world, beginning from Profinet to Ethernet IP or CC-Link IE or even EtherCAT. We have complete communication solutions. So that means if you want to be independent on in selecting your communication solution from your control system manufacturers, LAPP is the right choice. One-stop shop means you find all these components that you need for building up your network at LAPP. Widest range of high performance copper cables, especially if you think about Profinet. I think we have the broadest range of Profinet cables on the market. That means everything that you can imagine in every different installation type or environmental requirements you can find in the LAPP program. Highest material availability, cable, patch cord, connectors and switches, global availability in over 100 locations. That means we have a global footprint. If you also work globally, you can find LAPP everywhere in the world and you can order your products directly there. So then creating our industrial communication solutions, we thought about what are the typical customers that we are talking to. First of all, sure, the type is an electrical engineer or maybe also someone who is working purchasing and ordering the product. So for these different types that we have, we want to provide them the right tools to find their products. So product selection could happen just by having some technical attributes. You are maybe an expert and you just want to find a component, a cable with certain technical specs like Profinet cable with category 5 and PUR outer sheet and maybe a temperature up to 85 degrees or something like this. For this, we have product finders created that could help you for this. I show you later how that works. And on the other hand, our customer could be someone who is looking for a complete solution for his application. That means he knows, okay, I'm building a robot and I need a Profinet communication on that robot. So there we have an application guide that helps you to find that complete cabling and connectivity solution, beginning from the cables and the connectors, patch cords, switches, and everything that you need to build that Profinet communication for that robot. So now let's go inside and let's have a look on our website where you can find all these great tools for helping you in finding the right products for your applications. So now we are on the LAPP website, lappcable.com. This is the English version. You can switch over from German to English if you don't know how that works. It's on the right side here. So this is what you can see on the left side here is the normal entrance if you are looking for a certain component. Yeah, if you're looking for a certain Ölflex cable or unitronic bus cable or Etherline data communication cable. So there you find the hierarchy behind this, beginning from Cat5 to flexible installation and so on. And then at the end, you also will be guided to a certain part number of your product. But what I want to show you today is some alternative ways and new ways that we have created to find that right product, and especially now today focused on industrial communication. I will switch off the camera now because I think if I switch it off, it is easier for you to see the complete website. So I want to start with our application guideline, or I want to start with our industrial communication landing page. We have created a new landing page. I don't know if anyone of you has already seen it. Now you will. You go in here via industries and then industrial communication, and then you will be guided to our industrial communication landing page. On this landing page, you can find all our informations and everything that is related to industrial communication. See how it's structured. You can find here industrial Ethernet, but you can find here also the old traditional field bus systems. As I said, now more and more industrial Ethernet is getting more important, but you still find there all the solutions for field bus systems like Profibus and so on. So now today we want to look a little bit deeper in the industrial Ethernet section, and we jump in here now. So, and here you can find some of our new tools. I want to start here with the application guideline. So the idea of the application guideline is to give customers an entrance point to our solutions coming from a certain industry and application. So we have now 3 of our most important industries here where we focus on. That's food and beverage, we have tooling machines, and we have intralogistics solutions. But sure, since we are offering a lot of solutions for different industries, at the moment we have 3 industries here, and but since we are still working on that tool, sorry, I jumped out. Since we are still working on that tool, it's something that will be further developed, and some further industries will be added there. So if you are working in a different industry that is not mentioned here, you can also refer here to that standard, what we call standard application. That's, if you look at this, it looks a little bit like the automation pyramid, where you have the office environment. Here you have the machine-to-machine communication, and here you have certain machines where you have to build up some communication. So this can be used also if you're working in a different industry that's not mentioned here. So, but I want to show you some examples in the food and beverage industry. You know, food and beverage is very demanding industries for especially for environmental condition, yeah, because you know, you have a lot of food there, you have a lot of cleaning of machines with aggressive cleaning detergents, and so for components this is very often high stress, and you need some very robust, reliable components there that can withstand that conditions. So first of all, we have to select here the communication system. Now you can find exactly one here. This is Profinet, in Europe the most important system, but we are planning also for future to enhance this with additional communication systems like Ethernet IP. So we select Profinet. Now we see this plant here, which is a bottle filling plant. Yeah, that means we have here bottle cleaning machine, then we have a bottle filling machine. Next step is bottle closing machine, and then boxing machine where the bottles are packed in boxes, and then we have a palletizing robot at the end, which takes the boxes and put them on pallets. So I want to start here with the bottle cleaning machine. I click on this, and now we can see what are typical components that are used inside that bottle cleaning machine that need some Profinet communication. Here you see some remote IOs, some Profinet remote IOs that are connected with Profinet cables here. And then connected to this remote IO, we have some sensor actuator patch cords that connect the sensor with the remote IO. And something that is very typical for such a machine, we have different zones in that machine. That on the one hand, you have the so-called splash zone. This is in direct food contact, or is sometimes comes in contact with food if food splashes during the production process. And this is a zone where you always have to clean very often the machine. So, and then we have the so-called non-food contact zone, which is a zone where you usually don't have food contact and which you don't have to clean so often. So in the splash zone, since I said cleaning is very often needed, looking at the special sensor actor patch cord that we are using here, this is our Unitronic sensor HD. HD stands for hygienic design. And now I click on this, and then you can see that certain product that we are recommending here. So it's called Unitronic Sensor HD, and it's open into an M12 socket patch cord with a special cable, which has also Ecolab approval. Ecolab is the manufacturer of cleaning detergents, and that means it's tested with their cleaning detergent, and also FDA, that's the Food and Drug Association in USA. So also it has a stainless steel nut. That means is very robust against cleaning and other foods and things that come in contact with that product. So then let's have a look at the connection here at the number 1. This connects the machine cabinet. That's the cabinet that's directly placed at the machine with this remote I/O. And what we are using here is always thinking in end-to-end. We have an EPIC data RJ45. That's the RJ45 connector for connecting in the cabinet. Then we have the EtherLine PN-Cat5, that's the cable. And then at the end, we have our EPIC data M12D connector for connecting that remote I/O. This is the M12 connector. So now looking at that cable, EtherLine PN-Cat5 Y-Flex FC is a Profinet cable, category 5, PVC, flexible, and FC stands for Fast Connect. So that means it is can be stripped with our Fast Connect stripping tool. Inside the cable there is a special inner sheet under the screen. So with this we can use that tool that makes stripping very fast and easy, stripping the outer sheet and the screening of the cable in one step. So, sorry, I did not use the back button. So now looking at other application, let's have a look at that pelletizing robot here. So, you know, robots are not just used in food and beverage production, though they are also used in automotive production or in other applications. So the solutions that you can see here could also fit to some similar applications where robots are used. What is very typical for cabling on the robot is that cable that goes from the food to the remote I/O here. The remote I/O is placed on that gripper of the robot. And on the remote I/O, there's also a sensor connected with a sensor cable. Yeah. So also again, end-to-end solution coming from the machine cabinet, going on the remote I/O and going to the sensor. So what I said was very, very typical here is that cable for a robot, which is a special torsion cable, because on the robot we have a lot of torsional movement and stress for the cable. So what we recommend here is our EtherLine torsion Cat7 cable, which is a category 7 cable, which is very robust for torsion applications. And sure, depending on the device that you are using, the remote I/O, or there could be also a camera or something else, you could use, there are also a category 5 cable, which could also fit for 100 megabit remote I/O. We have selected here the torsion Cat7. So suitable connector, since we have a Cat7 gigabit cable, we are using a M12X coded connector, which has 8 pins and is for category 6A suitable. So perfect choice for this cable here. Yeah. And here we have our sensor patch cord, which goes from the remote I/O to the sensor. We have decided to use our sensor HD cable here, hygienic design, since we are still in a food and beverage application, but there could be also used if you have lower requirements regarding food contact and cleaning of product, could be also POR M12 sensor active patch cord suitable. So, and since we are using an open end patch cord, we also need a connector that is connected on the end of the cable and goes in the remote I/O here. Yeah. So what is also designed in here is an interconnection on the robot foot, which makes it possible to easy and fast change that torsion cable here, because this torsion cable is stressed by the torsion movement, and so there's also some wear and tear at the cable. So sometimes this cable has maybe to be replaced, and that makes sense to have a connection here. And for this, we are using our M12X flange socket. This looks like this. This is a flange here, so it can be mounted in a hole, and on the other side of that socket, you can plug in your M12X connector with the cable. So, and last but not least, number one, that goes from the robot foot to the machine cabinet, and installation is usually in a cable raceway or on a cable tray. We have decided here to use EtherLine PN Cat7, since we say, okay, here's the installation is in a raceway, but sometimes could also happen that you have a cable tray here. In this case, we would recommend to use a tray cable. So, and going in the cabinet, we have our Epic Data RJ45 connector that is connected to the end of the cable. That's a field installable type where you don't need any special tools to install it. Can be installed very easy and fast. So now let's have a jump back. So just want to jump in here. You know, many machines or plants have also a main cabinet or control cabinet where you can control the whole factory. Yeah. This is what we also have here. And this control cabinet or main control cabinet makes the connection between the factory, the plant, and the office. So we have always the machine cabinet of the machine that's connected to the main cabinet, and we have also the office that is connected to that main cabinet. So, and what you can see here now, also some typical components that you can find there. PLC, maybe a HMI for controlling the process, and then we have also a remote I/O connected here. The cables that or the patch cords that we are using here are our EtherLine PN Flex patch cords that are Profinet patch cords for these two RJ45 connectors that are perfect to do the connection between these components, like that switch that we have here and that remote I/O, or also that switch and the NAT router there. So looking at that switch, the number 6, here we have in use an unmanaged switch of our EtherLine Access series, a 5-port or 8-port switch, depending on how many ports do you need. And what is also here, which is interesting, is number 3. That's a NAT router, and that makes the connection of the plant, the machinery, to the office environment. At this point, we often want to have some security features or also a routing possibility. That means we want to separate the plant floor from the office environment, and therefore a NAT router can be used. And this is our Etherline Access NF04, which is a very small router with also firewall functions inside and network address translation, which makes it possible to separate the office environment from the factory. So, okay, that so far is about our application guide. Since I said when we jumped in there, very often you are maybe supplying different industries, maybe not food and beverage, maybe not automotive production. Then we have another way created here, product selection by protocol standard. Sorry, that was the wrong. I don't want it at this point to jump in here. I need this one. So Ethernet applications can be found here on the left side, Ethernet applications. There you find many standard applications that you can find in typical industrial machinery. You often have a main control cabinet, you have a machine control cabinet, you have a communication from cabinet to cabinet. That means a typical cable that's installed on a cable tray and the communication between two cabinets, or some call it also machine to machine. Then we have robots, or we have linear moving applications. This is usually done with track chain cables, and or we have building or office or daisy chain topology. That's if you have such a transport line, material transport, then you often have a so-called daisy chain topology. And then again, we can jump in here. And then we see how it's done and which are the typical. First, we describe the requirements of that applications, and then we recommend the products that can be used here. Since I said the cables are usually installed on a cable tray here to connect to that cabinet, and inside the cabinet we are using RJ45 connector. These are some of the products that are used that go to the cabinet, and then we can directly click on that link, and then we come here on that side where we have the Cat5 cable, and we could use that Etherline tray cable here, for example, which can be used on a cable tray. Or also what can be found inside that main cabinet, as I already mentioned, the Etherline Access NAT router. We have some flexible patch cables, RJ45 to RJ45. We have a so-called DIN rail adapter, which makes it possible to install a fixed installed cable coming from a cable tray, for example, and make a pluggable solution where you can plug in your patch cable. And for sure, you maybe also need a LAN cable that connects that cabinet to your office environment. So far, that's so far with the solution finders for certain applications. Now we want to switch over to that more or less expert mode. We call it expert mode because it's made for customers that are typically know what they need. That means you know, for example, you are looking for a Cat5 Profinet cable with AWG22 and UL certification. Then in this case, this is the quickest way to find that. So what you could do now is jump in. Gotta look in English. Oh, sorry. I have to go back to that here. So I want to start with this here. What you could do now is to go here, industrial product selection by protocol standard. So with that tool, it is possible, if you know you are looking for a communication solution for a certain standard like Profinet or Ethernet IP or EtherCAT. These are some of the most famous communication standards. If you know that, then you can jump in here and you say, okay, I'm looking for Profinet and a category 5 cable, and in the installation class A. Installation class A means it is for fixed installation. Make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So you know, Profinet is separated or is classified in different installation types. Yeah, you have A, B, and C. A stands for fixed installation, B stands for flexible installation, and C stands for moved applications, which means it could be a drag chain, it could be a fast tune installation, which is such a cable wagon, and it could be also a torsion application, for example, in a robot. Yeah. So now let's go in that example. We are looking for a Profinet cable with fixed installation, and now we need also a UL approval, which could be CMX, could be CMG or PLTC. And what is the difference? So CMX means limited use. You can use it only inside the machinery. CMG and PLTC means it can be also used, G stands for general, outside the machine. Could be used also for connecting two machines. And PLTC is power limited tray cable. Tray stands for the cable tray. That means it can be used also on a cable tray, also for connecting two machines together. So now let's go with that simple CMX cable here. And then we can look at some further features here. Suitable for PoE, it is flame retardant, halogen free, or could be used for outdoor. And then we can see here, can it be used? Is it halogen free? In this case, not. Okay, it's simple because I think it's where's the material here? It's a PVC cable. PVC is not halogen free. So means it is not halogen free. It is a PVC cable. There we have the shielding type. It's shield, foil, and unshielded twisted pair. That's the screening, a braid screening, and foil, and non-shielded twisted pair. So then we can go here. There we see the application, industrial communication machinery cable. And also interesting here maybe is the maximum length, which is influenced by the cross section, which is AWG22, and also by the stranding of the cable. If it's 7-stranded or 19-stranded, that means also the flexibility class of the cable. And usually Ethernet is defined for 100 meter, but you see we have also some very thin types here. Yeah, here AWG26, then it goes down to 60 meters, yeah, the maximum length. So, and then at the end, we have here the specific part number that we can select. Yeah. And this is directly linked to our website in the catalog. That means there you can find exactly that cable. There you can find, there you can order it, and you find also the data sheet for this cable. So that's it. And once we have selected the cable, then after that we are maybe wondering which connector can we use for this. So there you can find a selection of connectors, RJ45, M12D coded, M12X coded connector, plug or socket, and then we can go in here, for example, the RJ45 plug type, Profinet, and you can see here where it is suitable. Yeah? There we can find that yes here, then you know for this cable we have a RJ45 plug according to Profinet standard. So then also the same with the M12D coded or M12X coded could be found here. If you look at the next page here, then we can find also that connector types there. Yeah? There you have a table with all the connectors that we are offering for industrial Ethernet. So then you can jump in here on the certain part number of that connector. Also, what is important in selecting the suitable connector, that's the minimal outer diameter of the cable. That means once you know the outer diameter of the cable, then you can select also the right connector. Also the AWG, the cross section of the connector is important, so it should fit to the cross section of your cable. So far with that tool, that is the tool that could help you if you are looking for a certain connector standard. So what you can find also here on that page, as you see here, the standards that we are, protocol standards that we are supporting. This is just a selection of the most important standards: Profinet, CC-Link IE, Ethernet IP, also Modbus or PowerLink. Yeah. So now looking, maybe just let's have a jump back to that. To that finder here. So for all these standards, we have cables, connectors, or also industrial Ethernet switch solutions available. And with that finder that I have shown you, where you can see, okay, a cable for a Profinet, for fixed installation, category 5, AWG22. If you are now looking for Modbus cable, for example, then you have to maybe not a complete specification like for the Profinet, yeah, but you think, okay, I need AWG22 and need it for fixed installation, then you can also use that Profinet finder to find a suitable Modbus cable. But there you have to be a little bit more, have to have some more expertise, and maybe have to look in the manual of the device that you want to connect, and look what the manufacturer of the device has written there. Then what could we find also here is our EtherLine access switches. Maybe also interesting complete range of managed and unmanaged switches. So it is structured like this. Here we have our NAT firewall. Then we have special Profinet switches that have Profinet conformance class B in different port combinations, 4-port, 8-port, and 16 ports. And then we also have our unmanaged switches in a special flat design with 5-port, 8-port, and 16 ports. And also managed switches is all the functionality that managed switches can have: ring redundancy, gigabit, also SNMP monitoring, and there we have all different most important port combinations: 6 ports, 8 ports, or 8 ports with SFP for fiber optics, and also 8 ports with gigabit and fiber optics. And then last but not least, simple unmanaged switches for DIN-rail mountage, 5-port, 8-port, 16 ports, everything that is needed. So now I'm close to the end, and I would like to hand over back to